of that statement by President Bola Tinubu. We have Jide Pratt. He's the country pilot manager with Trade Grid, joins us virtually. Mr. Pratt, thank you so much for your time. Good morning. I know you would do better than I did when it comes to the data. Some of those are just investigation by journalists and reports following MBS and all of that. Help us to understand the issue of landing costs, the issue of other factors, insurance and NMDPA levies and all of that, that feed into the cost of a litre of petrol at this time.
Thank you for talking to me, and good morning. I don't think you've done badly, to be frank. You've put everything in the right bucket. Now, let's start from the beginning. Every time we buy petrol at the retail outlet, that is what is called an ex-pump price. So that's the pump price. And you've talked about how it has moved over the period of time. However, to get to that pump price, what it means is that we're going to go on a platform for trading petroleum products. And I try to liken this to the stock exchange. You want to buy a share, you know, by looking at what the deals of the day are, what the stocks that went up or down, it guides you. So if we look at petrol, then you'll be looking at something either called the Eurobond or RBOB for gasoline. It's just a quote. But that guides you on how much $1 per ton is and where it's coming from. So that's the starting point. You've aptly talked about things like NMDPRA fees, lightering, and to lighter just means I'm moving product from one big vessel to a smaller vessel. The immediate question will be, why do that? It will be based on the fact that if I'm going to berth or park it at a jetty, I need to be able to make sure that that ship does not go aground. But you're going to pay for those services. You're going to pay for finance. You're going to pay for insurance. You're going to pay for things like what you call Q&Q, which is quality and quantity. You want to ascertain that if I'm buying 30 units of something, it is 30 units I receive. There are things like Incoterms, which are just guiding principles for where does liability move. For us in Nigeria, once you add all those things together, don't forget, most of them are in the US dollar, per ton or cents per liter. There's an exchange rate factor that goes into that as well. So when you convert that, because we buy in the local naira, you get what is called a landed cost in the depot. Once you have a landed cost in the depot, then it means that a vehicle, a truck, must move that product from that depot to the retail stations where they receive it in their underground tanks. And that is how the costing, maintenance of the station, everything is added into those to get a price that gives a margin to the people who sell at the retail outlets. So that's where we are. I don't know if you want me to go on from there to how we got into subsidy and no subsidy, or does
I would like for you to go the way of looking at those factors, the changes we've had since May 2023. From your calculation, I know you're privy to some of those costs, the landing costs and all of those insurance. Are we still paying subsidy? Is the government still paying subsidy? If yes, at what point does this subsidy come in? Because, I mean, we have those factors, insurance and landing costs and you know, the NMDPR. At what point do they come in?
Okay, so my straight answer, and I'm sorry, I tend to disagree when people say subsidy is gone. The president made a statement on the 29th of May, 2023. And let's be clear, if you look at the numbers of what Eurobob and all those things were, we were landing petroleum products at a certain level where the subsidy element, based on my calculation, was about 54 naira circa per litre. Now, what has happened from then till now is that the exchange rates have gone up. If the exchange rates have gone up, then it means that the pricing of buying as well has gone up. So every time we land a product, if we land a product in Lagos, Nigeria, and take it to a station, and I'm going to use just figures. If we land it at 200 naira per litre, where does the subsidy come in? If the federal government says that that product must only be sold at 150 naira per litre, in it, there's a gap of 50 naira. Are we okay up to that point?
Yes, we are.
If we are, then that gap of 59 now means that someone is going to bear that gap of 59 because the government believes that that 200 naira is too much for the populace to pay. So it means that they have subsidized that cost of a liter of petrol by X amount. So as time goes on, every time they land a cargo, it means that whatever that landed price is, if we're not selling at that fair value price or at that true reflection price, something is being held back and is paid back to whoever brings it in. In this case, NNPC, who has been doing this for about 7 to 8 years. I think that clarifies where subsidy comes in from. So it also means that.
So as it, sorry, as it is,
it also means that if you moved to 250 and you keep on selling at 100 naira 150, that differential margin just begins to go either up or down.
Okay, so as it is now, it seems clear that there's a subsidy element still here in that value chain. But now we're hearing of issues of increase in depot charges. Does that mean that we should expect, because already we've seen increase in some filling stations of the prices. Abuja, I mean, that's like a constant. I'm just talking from Lagos, where you have the cheapest. You know, should we expect that there'll be an increase in subsidy or increase at the pump price?
So, I mean, very, very interesting question. And what are these charges that we're talking about? If you look at the cost of landing a product in tank and my cost of finance, and let's go as basic as cost of funding. If I'm funding at 2% or 3%, and I move up to 6 or 7%, what it means is that my cost of doing business is higher. So if it took me 10 days to get into that place, for instance, and it's taking me 12 days, it could be that the cost of handling, and I'll call them operations costs, have gone up. You've rightly put part of it in the depot. Bottom line is this, Ini. If I was paying 7 naira per liter for something and the price has gone up to 9 naira per liter, what it means is that there's a 2 naira increase in that cost of buying. Now, be it at the depot, be it at wherever it may be, it means that I need to increase that price to the customer. So it's two things. If we run a subsidy regime, which in my opinion we do, then it means that the cost of subsidizing that product to keep it at the price we want people to pay for is higher by 2 naira. So yes, that price at that depot, quote and unquote, will go up by 2 naira. However, if the government says I'm going to absorb that 2 naira, then it means that the cost of subsidizing 1 liter of fuel has gone up by that 2 naira. So the government will pay more in terms of subsidy. It's just what it is. It's either the people will pay that differential if the government doesn't subsidize it, or yes, to your first point, the price will go up by that amount. It's really as simple as that.
Yeah, and since we're not talking to a government official, we cannot say for sure where that responsibility would tilt to. But I mean, we started this conversation to ask this. Would you say that the president's pronouncement, because if you talk to an average Nigerian, they said, oh, the president shouldn't have made that pronouncement. That was the turning point for Nigeria, even though we have applause coming from IMF, World Bank, and some economists to say it was time to end the subsidy regime. But I mean, looking at where that has brought us, and the possibility that the government is still paying subsidy, would you say that we have benefits or gains from that major pronouncement? And of course, the unification of the FX policy?
My quick answer to that is no, in terms of gains. So the pronouncement of the president is based on his wisdom and understanding of how he wants to run the nation. When the president said subsidy was gone, and let's put it in perspective, if you did some calculations then, we probably were paying a subsidy about 50 or 54 naira per liter. That's not the same today. Today, we're probably paying about 200 naira or more per liter. And I mean, those are my personal opinions based on what I see. So what are the gains that we've gotten? And in all fairness to the president and his team, they seem to be getting the CNG initiative right. So this is the question. If they had been a bit more transparent, then what it meant is that from May 29th, 2003, there should have been someone on the government side saying that this is how much we have saved month on month, and this is where it's going to. That way, we'll begin to say that, look, the pains that we're going through now are not, they're not long-term. So it means that how many CNG buses have been put on stage between May 29, 2023 and now How many, renewable units are being built into people's houses in terms of cost of power? So that's on the one hand. So the question is that if that was a gain, then maybe we're not seeing the gain as fast as we should. I think NNPC just launched about 12 CNG stations. While that is good to know, it's not enough. So it means that the option of driving with petrol, which we're all paying about 600 naira circa for, if we were getting a CNG, more like in terms of we were using natural gas, we were using CNG to propel our cars into litter, then it means the saving on that already is 50% into our pockets. We spend less by 50%. So if we have gained anything from subsidy, it's a hope that this CNG initiative drives on well. That's number one. The second part is this: the transparency in NNPC for me is totally bedazzling. There's just none. We have countries like Ghana who on and off they go around about subsidy, but the guiding template to how much a litre lands is on the NPA website. If you went to the NMDPA website now, with all due respect to them, you don't see data that can drive decision making. And that's by choice, in my opinion. So while the gains of subsidy would be seen hopefully soon in terms of the CNG initiative, I'm still struggling with someone from the presidency that has come to say these are the other things that we have done based on how much we saved. Because don't forget, when the subsidy was gone, two things happened. The subsidy payments, ideally at that level, were lower. But there was also an immediate gain because prices shifted from about 220 naira to about 500 and something. So the question is this: where has all that money gone to? What has it done for us to be able to say that, yes, while we've suffered this, these are the gains? Has healthcare improved? Road networks? I really don't know, and I guess the government is in the best place to answer those questions.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, Mr. Pratt, that we've seen it in the FAC. It moved from subsidy to FAC, and so, of course, as you asked, it will be state governments especially, and even the federal government. And now, thank God, the local government have the autonomy to see what they are doing with it or what they have done with it so far. But I mean, it's our job right here as the media to keep the conversation going and shine the light. Thank you, Mr. Jide Pratt. I don't think this was a very easy conversation for you, but thank you.
It's what it is. It's what it is. It's what it is.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, well, we need more data out there. We need more information out there. That's obvious. You know, some of these conversations are not so easy, but we have to stay on it. You know, have we really made any gain, you know, since that's a plausible pronouncement? Two of them, you know, the one on FX and the one on subsidy removal. Well, let's, before we head back to Sunrise Daily Studio, let's just take you a little bit of recap of what the market looked like yesterday. It was a very, very red. Well, not very, very red, but just one very red day. Yesterday, 0.33%, and the market lost